Hello, everybody.
Hi, it's Elaine Mays and
I'm Grace Caternolo.
from the library marketing team at HarperCollins. We're excited to have you for our next installment of Writers to Watch. We have a wonderful evening for you tonight, and we have a wonderful lineup. So let me just tell you who is here tonight. We have Alexandra Bracken, author of Immortal Rose, coming out August 18th. We have Nadia Hashimi, author of City of Widows, out July 28th. We have Julie Murphy, VERA STEIN is Fine, July 21st, author of. We have David Heska Wanbli Weiden, author of Wisdom Corner, out July 7th. So we kind of have our perfect summer reads, start of thinking about summer reads. I know I need some sunshine in my life, and we're gonna have a really great conversation tonight. So Grace, how's it going? What's going on?
What's going on is we're about to have an awesome episode, Writers to Watch. And at the end of this episode, or right now, whenever Lainey's feeling moved, we can talk about next month's.
Oh, why don't we tell them now? Why
Oh,
bury the lead? You know, because you
yeah.
brought it up. Okay, so let me then we can wrap up at the end without having to go back to that. Okay, big news. If you haven't seen already, we have our next author lineup for May for Writers to Watch. It's gonna be fabulous. I feel like we're going from some I don't know, we're going now to more spooky, weirdly. Some of our books are a little spooky, but it's gonna be a really great event, just like tonight is. Okay, so Grace, anything else? Any other housekeeping before we get going? So you have a
Uh,
lot to pack in tonight.
yeah, we have a lot to pack in. I will say Day of Dialogue, LJ, in a couple weeks. I'm gonna send a link for 2 weeks now, right? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
To register for that, we've got a really great showing of authors there. So I'm going to toss that in. Register for Day of Dialogue.
All
What?
right, and don't forget the perk of being a Writers to Watch Crowdcast
Oh,
follower.
yeah.
What do they get?
They get early access to e-galleys if the e-galley is available. Sometimes we have authors on so early, first time talking about it, and the e-galleys aren't up yet, but we'll still send you the link so that you can go back and check. But yeah, you get early e-galleys. You can read ahead of time. You can have it for when the program is over and you want to read after hearing from the authors. And yeah, we can always also, if you ever feel like throwing questions into the Q&A early, if something pops up for you while you're reading, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll be here waiting for you and excited for you to come. So
Yes, and that's a good reminder. So we're gonna hear from every author. Keep your questions for about halfway through. We're gonna come back on, put them in the chat. We want you to, it could be questions, comments, concerns. It could be anything, but want the authors to hear from our librarians. So let's let's do that. All right.
we'll
Let's give them something to ask questions about. How about
get
that?
into it.
All right. I'm gonna bring on first Alexandra Bracken, author of Immortal Rose. Come on down. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming to speak to librarians. This is
My
insane. I'm
pleasure.
so excited.
Thank you for having me. Just a warning, my dog, he is so cute, but he is such a tyrant, and this is like peak dog walking time here in Arizona, so you may hear him going off in the background as like a little backup chorus for me, but sorry in advance, guys. I'm so sorry. He's
Totally
11. I
fine.
can't tame him at this point.
It's totally fine. We've had so many interesting animals on this show. Cats and dogs, of course. One time we had a horse. We've
What?
had a chicken. Um, Dogs are welcome. Don't worry.
I'm sure he'll come over and want to say hi soon. He can't
I
stand it
love
when the
that.
attention's not on him, so.
Don't worry, he gets a shout out. So fair, deserves some screen time. Okay, so I'm going to read your bio and then we're going to hear more from you. So, Alexandra Bracken is a #1 New York Times, USA Today, and internationally best-selling author. Her work has been adapted for feature film and is available across the world in over 20 languages. She's born in Phoenix, Arizona, the daughter of a Star Wars collector. She grew up going to an endless string of Star Wars conventions and toy fairs. I would love to talk more about that, which helped spark her imagination and deep love of reading. After graduating high school, she attended the College of William and Mary in Virginia, where she double majored in English and history. She sold her first book, Brightly Woven, as a senior in college and later moved to New York City to work in children's book publishing, first as an editorial assistant, then marketing. And after 6 years, she took the plunge and decided to write full time. We're so glad you did. And she now lives in Arizona with her tiny pup, Tennyson, so cute, in a house that's constantly overflowing with books, which we just talked about. There's
Yeah.
like this wonderful background behind you.
These shelves are 3 books deep, and yet I have run out of room.
Librarians know the problem well. It's a good problem to have.
Struggle is real.
So I am gonna swoon over the book, but I want to hand it off to you to tell us about your adult debut, Immortal Rose.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight, and thank you for having me. I am thrilled to be able to tell you a little bit about Immortal Rose, which is my adult debut. So yes, after 15 years of writing young adult and middle grade fiction, I have made the jump and I am writing an adult work, and I am just so thrilled. I love it so much. And I cannot wait to hear what you guys think of it if you have the chance to read it. But this is really a book that I am kind of pitching as being Pride and Prejudice in perfume. It is a Regency inspired with some twists. So it's similar, it's set in a world that's similar to the Regency England with a few key twists. And it is a historical fantasy romance, I think is what I've settled on. It's the story of Viola, who is the illegitimate heir to the infamous, but also highly in demand House of Roseburn Perfumery. And she, like the other members of her family, thanks to a very distant fairy ancestor, has the ability to infuse magic into perfumes, hence why some of these scents are so in demand. And so these are really scents that can affect the mind, the body, and the soul. So for example, she can create a perfume that can enhance the wearer's beauty in the eyes of the beholder. She can create a perfume that can help you get through a headache or restore a lost memory, or even compel you to do something that you might not be willing to otherwise. And she's also what I call like the fantasy version of a super smeller. She can smell people's emotions and kind of suss out their lives and their secrets. And this is one of the things that's kind of helped her as like this kind of scrappy heroine survive in her really tough corner of this otherwise beautiful world. And so the story really kicks off when the king is seemingly poisoned by one of these like poisonous perfumes, and she gets drawn into this dark conspiracy by the handsome and mysterious Hugh, who is the Earl of Foxcourt, and also, unbeknownst to society, is kind of functioning almost like this royal spy master who does favors for the king. And he knows that she is the last living member of this family with the ability to create the antidote they need, which is a legendary perfume known as Immortal Rose. And these two do not get off on the right foot. They are absolutely at each other's throats with banter and just bickering. And they really struggle. Viola really struggles with the fact that she needs Hugh's protection because, unfortunately for her, the poisoner knows that she can create this antidote and is desperately trying to stop her. And so as they are kind of exploring the dark underbelly of their world, trying to gather all of these ingredients, she needs to blend the perfume. They, that hatred kind of starts to spark into something a little bit more. A little romance starts to grow. But in the process of doing this, they have uncovered just an even deeper, darker conspiracy that's afoot. And so soon, even though they are struggling to be together, they may be torn apart. That is my very dramatic pitch for the plot of the book, but I will say, like all the best perfumes, the story is like really layered with elements I adore, including obviously perfume. That is an obsession I have had just my whole life, and it's only deepened, much to the chagrin of my wallet, thanks to perfume talk. But scent in particular has always been a really important part of my creative process when I'm writing books, when I'm daydreaming about books, because they have such a powerful hold on our minds in terms of stirring up a feeling or emotion or being able to kind of set a place. So I use scent a lot with world building, but more recently I've really enjoyed exploring how the use of scent has evolved over time. So going all the way back when scent was used to commune with the gods, when it was just purely to mask odors, when it was thought to be a form of medicine. And even served kind of as a way to reinforce social hierarchy with who got access to different scents and different musks and whatnot. And as Viola says in the book, perfumery is really the meeting point of art and science. Modern perfumery in general is very, very science focused. And science, of course, explains why a scent can instantly evoke a memory or a strong emotion. And that is because scent is our only sense that is directly tied to that part of our brain and doesn't have to like go through any other sort of processing. So you can just be in a moment and smell something and instantly picture somebody's face. I think it's wonderful. Um, but I think the thing that draws us, and in particular me, I guess I shouldn't speak for the whole world, but for me at least, the art of perfumery is so special because it really is a form of storytelling. It's coming purely from the perfumer's imagination. It is them trying to capture, like I said, a place, a time, an emotion, an experience that they've had, or just to kind of tell a story that they've dreamt up. And I think that's ultimately what I really connect with and something that I really wanted to draw out in this book. And I knew I wanted to set it in this kind of gorgeous and sumptuous Regency inspired world because I wanted to explore themes around like the dark side of beauty and the darker elements of perfumery, but also kind of explore how women really struggle to define themselves in that world and basically how perfumery can serve as a way for them to assert and define themselves in a world that is seeking to control them. But this book is also very much an ode to my ongoing love affair with historical romance, which is the subgenre that made me a romance reader and introduced me to my favorite character type of all time, which is the yearning man who is down bad and absolutely tormented by the depth of his romantic feelings and yet somehow still in denial about them. We know him, we love him. The hand flex is just instantly iconic to people for a good reason. So I really wanted to capture that kind of like capital R romance feeling in this world. And of course, there is this kind of grounded fantasy element with the perfumes and the magic that they can kind of stir up, but I really also wanted to kind of blend in the more high stakes and twists, darker twists that you get with romantasy. And my like evil genius secret plot is that I'm hoping that the romantasy readers who have been reluctant to try historical romance will be inspired to read some historical romance books and vice versa after reading this, which is my best attempt to blend the two. But really, this book is just brimming with all of the tropes I love. There's a marriage of convenience. There's a found family that I like want to inhabit the house with and just move in with and love on all of them. It's technically a bodyguard romance. There are rival brothers and, like I said, dark twists. And it's just like a world that I've completely fallen in love with. And I hope you guys will love it too if you have the chance to read it. So thank you for letting me ramble at you about Immortal Rose. And thank you for all that you do in connecting books to readers and just supporting authors everywhere. It's been so much fun to chat with you guys. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
That's great. I feel like if anyone opens my brain up, they're probably going to see all of those images somewhere in there. So this is like
Yeah, feel free to screenshot. The name of that file is literally yearningmen.png.
I love
So feel
it.
free to screenshot as a desktop background.
I think swoony is like the perfect, or maybe lush. Lush and swoony is like how I feel about the read. And as soon as it was launched to us, I wrote to your editor. I was like, now please. And I think she was just copying and pasting like romantic lines. Like, you have to read it. Like, it's so good. And I just love seeing this woman who, has had so much taken from her, and then kind of the same way these perfumes are like a perfume can be kind of delicate, or it can be powerful, or it can be underestimated. And I feel like if you underestimate that, much like this woman in the book, I don't know, that's my take on Viola. Like,
I love it. No, I'm going to
underestimate.
steal that. Thank you.
Oh, take it,
A great way of
please.
pitching
That's
it.
what I was thinking of. So thank you so much. We have so many more questions for you, but we're gonna move on and come back. Okay. Thank you. Over to Grace.
Thank you. Thank you. I am going to welcome on Nadia Hashimi.
Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Oh, thank you
All
so
right.
much for being here. I'm going to read a quick bio before we talk about City of Widows. So, Nadia is a pediatrician turned international best-selling novelist and daughter of Afghan immigrants. She is the author of 4 books for adults: The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, A House Without Windows, When the Moon is Low, and Sparks Like Stars, as well as the middle grade novels One Half from the East and The Sky at Our Feet. She lives in Washington, D.C. with her family. So, Nadia, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to have you on. I know librarians are so pumped. They're some of your biggest fans. So thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. One of the first things that I ever did as a new author was to go to the ALA conference, and I felt like a kid in a candy shop to be surrounded by all these new books and then by librarians who have like a special kind of energy for books. So I'm really excited to be here today with this crowd, and I do love libraries, librarians, the way they organize book clubs, and I love connecting with people doing this stuff. So thanks for the chance to introduce the story.
Well, thank you. Yeah, ALA is such a fun conference. I'm so glad that you've experienced it. It kind of feels like, I don't know, the energy in the room kind of shifts when there's that many librarians in the best way. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it off to you to tell us about City of Widows.
So, City of Widows for me is a novel that is actually a continuation of my first novel that came out, The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, but it is on its own a standalone novel. And so I thought I would start by telling you a little bit about, where the idea for the story came from. Because for me, a lot of the stories that I write, they come from either a moment or a headline in the news or something that I come across. Now, back in like maybe 2022, I read an article by Amanda Ripley in Politico about the untold story of the Afghan women who hunted the Taliban. And this is about a military unit that was in the Afghan military forces called the Female Tactical Platoon. So they had recruited this special unit, elite American trained women who would go on to like fast rope out of helicopters in the dead of night to go on these missions across the country, seeking out targets like insurgents and Taliban members. They were a very elite unit. And what I found really interesting in this article about these women was that there was a quote by one of the women where, the American women who were training them, they were also a special unit and they're working alongside the Rangers and really like tough guys who are out there. And so the American women are dealing with their battles of being in this very masculine space, this very male dominated space. And they're training these Afghan women. And what they realized is like these Afghan women kind of come in with like full makeup on and their hair done and they're dressed up. And they were like, why are they showing up to the base like this for training? And one of the women said, her quote was, "If I die tonight, I die pretty." And so there was this revelation that they were insisting on being in this male dominated space, but on retaining their femininity because they wanted to do what they were doing, not as, women who were just kind of like shedding all their femininity, but as women. It was really important for them, for their society to see them doing this as women. Now, that being said, a lot of them were carrying out this role of being soldiers in secrecy because they did not want to face the backlash either from their families or from the communities or to become a target because for the Taliban, anybody who was working with the Americans, they were on their enemy list. They were on their target list. And in the couple of years leading up to the fall of the country, there were really targeted assassinations across the country of people who were deemed, allies to the Americans. So, fast forward to like August of 2021, where we know that the United States is going to withdraw from the country, and then all of a sudden, everybody's realizing that this timeline is going like really, really fast, and the Taliban are at the gates of the city. And women, like these soldiers, are in a panic alongside so many other people because they're all of a sudden, their enemies are literally at the gates. And so you've got panic and dread. You've got people who are covering up painting over women's faces on the outside of buildings, like outside of salons, because they're remembering back in the first Taliban regime, how women had been completely erased from society. And they know that coming in, they're going to be again targeted if they have these things outside their buildings. They're also destroying some of their documents that show that they have worked alongside Americans, that they've served, or that they've gotten different types of degrees. And probably a lot of people have seen the pictures that circulated on the news of the chaotic scenes from the airport where there were just masses of people desperate to get out of the country, families who knew their daughters would be at risk in the coming days, people who knew that the society was completely going to change. And then there was also the bombings that happened. So this story is kind of me honing in on a woman. Marjan's at the center of the story, and she is one of these soldiers. She also has a daughter, a young daughter who is a music student. And it's the story of her and her daughter and their relationship and their secrets between them all kind of coming to a head while they've got this pressure of this evacuation. Can we get out of the country? She's being hunted by members of the Taliban, but also by her past. And and in this story, they're not the only people that you'll meet. I really wanted to showcase who the women were in Afghanistan, who were not just at risk from the Taliban, but just the women who were living and thriving in that country before. And so you'll also meet a really witty journalist. You'll meet entrepreneurs. You'll meet women who are widows, women who are lovers. There is like the full spectrum of women in this story, although it does kind of focus on these three women who are at the core of it. And that's one thing that I really wanted to talk about is the opportunities that were lost for these women and the things that were lost in Afghanistan when the Taliban took over. So, for example, music was really important to me to include as a young musician because the Taliban have come in and again, they have banned music. And so the music school is now, they destroyed instruments and threatened musicians. We've lost a lot of the journalism. So 8 out of 10 Afghan women are no longer able to work in the field as journalists as they were before. And their women were serving in government and all different levels of government. That's no longer possible. So they really have been erased from nearly all facets of society, and girls can no longer go to school past the sixth grade. So that gives you a sense of like why there was such panic and dread in those days leading up to August of 2021. The research for this book took me in lots of different directions, including interviewing the commander of the female tactical platoon, to also interviewing, this is a book called Ashley's War about one of the women who were the counterparts of the female tactical platoon. I interviewed a woman who was in the what's called the CST, which were the counterparts, and these were the women who were also kind of helping their sisters in service during the evacuation time. And this was, I don't know, one heck of a story to try to pull together. But I'm hoping that I did it a bit of justice, and and hopefully will shed a little bit of light on what these women, the risks that they took on, the bravery, the courage that they demonstrated, and to bust a little bit of the stereotypes of Afghan women kind of being always victimized and meek and in need of help. These were women who truly were the heroes of the country and demonstrating that they can do things that people around the world probably think were not possible for Afghan women to do.
Thank you so much. The women in this book really subverted my expectations as characters, and I think they will do the same for a lot of readers. And I'm just really excited to have librarians read this. I know we brought galleys to PLA a couple weeks ago, and they went fast, so that was great to see. So thank you, Nadia. I'm going to say goodbye to you for now. We'll bring you back in a few. And I believe that next we have Julie Murphy. Hello.
Hi, I was like, yeah, you do. And then I just sat there
Okay.
waiting, and I was like, oh, I have to unmute myself
I
and
know.
turn my own camera on. That's right.
I didn't exercise my God power there. I was like, I have a feeling she's coming. I'm not gonna.
No, yeah. Well, just so you know, you always have my approval to do that. So
Well, thank you.
the possibility of me just sitting there is very likely.
Well, you are here, and I am so glad. I'm gonna read a bio before we get into Vera Stein is Fine, which rolls off the tongue so nicely, by the
I think
way.
so. I
That
think
was
so.
I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad because we fought over this title for a long time.
I remember what the title was before. I don't know if we're allowed to
I
talk about
know.
that, but
Oh, we can. Yeah, yeah.
I loved it. But
Thank you.
so Julie Murphy lives in Kansas with her husband who loves her and her cats who tolerate her. She is the #1 New York Times bestselling author and co-author of over 20 books for all ages, including Dumplin', now a Netflix original film, and the Christmas Notch series co-written with her best friend Sierra Simone. When Julie isn't writing, she's hunting for the perfect slice of cheese pizza, discovering a new hobby that she will soon discard, and planning her next travel adventure. I've never related to so many things. I haven't written 20 books, but my cat also just tolerates me, so I get it.
I feel you. I have 3 cats now that just tolerate me. Like I'm the spouse in the household where they're just like, is he here? You're not him. I'm like secondary
Painful.
spouse.
You're like,
I'm
okay.
like, okay, well, I'm the one that makes sure that your like litter box subscription is still coming in so we can get like, fresh litter and like anyways, they don't care. They don't care. They just see his beard and want to rub up against it, you know?
They're simple creatures.
Yeah, they are. Anyways, thanks for having me. Oh my gosh, Immortal Rose and City of Widows sound amazing. And also, anything that I'm about to say will be nowhere near that smart. Just so everyone knows. Um, so Vera Stein is Fine. I think in-house at Harper, we're kind of calling this like my adult debut. I do have some solo, or I don't really have a solo adult project out yet. This will be my first one. I have a new adult book coming out in like a week and a half. I wrote an adult book for Disney a long time ago that was like a sort of like Cinderella rom-com retelling, but that was like I was like a hired gun to do that. And this is like my first one that has like really come from my brain and it sat in my brain for so long. I first got the idea for Vera Stein is Fine in 2017. And I think we're gonna like just show some random pictures of me in like the Palm Springs area in the desert, and we'll get to some art too, and I'll kind of explain that. But it'll just be like slowly cycling through, I believe. But anyhow, I got the idea for Vera Stein is Fine because Sierra Simone, my best friend, and co-author, sent me this article about a very old retirement facility and home and like just like a community for retired actors in the UK. And I was like, that sounds like the messiest place of all time. And I would love to write something like that set in like Palm Springs. And I immediately just like absorbed the article, became obsessed with this concept, sat down that night and wrote like an 8-page synopsis of what that would look like and sent it to my agent. And I didn't have any adult projects like on the docket yet. Like this was all brand new. I was only writing young adult and middle grade at the time. And my agent, who is like just such a dear friend now, was like, this is amazing. Yes, let's do it. And I wrote the first like 70 pages and then life happened and I just kind of stalled out. And I am really guilty of when a project stalls out, I don't really return to it because I sort of, whether it's me being superstitious or something like that, like it just kind of gets into my head that like, oh, there I am chewing my own hair trying to write a book. This is really emblematic of my process right now, actually. But anyways, I get it into my head. If a book doesn't work out, it's not meant to work out. And so Vera Stein sat for a while. It's literally until a year ago, it's always been called Creatures of Habit. But I got this idea for Vera Stein because of, this article that Sierra sent me. And it sat for a while and I never expected to really return to this idea. But then life really happened and I sort of became the person I needed to be in order to write Vera Stein. I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer. I became a caretaker for both of my parents at various times. just all these different things collided and happened at once in my life, and I kept going back to this book. So I guess I should tell you what this book is about now. Vera Stein is fine. I am never the author that takes my arc anywhere or like has the book to show people. So I just want everyone to applaud me for a moment. Please clap. I just so happen to have this on my desk today. Vera Stein is fine is about, surprise, spoiler, Vera Stein. She has been caretaking her for her terminally ill mother for the last 20 years. She lives in a very matriarchal house with her mother and her grandmother, Ruby Stein. Ruby Stein is a former creature feature scream queen from the 60s and 70s. She is very much a large personality and a hard pill to swallow. Vera once describes her as having caviar taste on a tuna salad budget, which I really feel deep in my bones. Anyhow, Vera's mom, prior to the book, passes away, and it's Vera and Ruby are sort of left to fend for themselves, and they realize that so much of the relationship they had was sort of built around Vera's mother. That was sort of their common denominator. Ruby had been waiting for years and years and years to go to this retirement home that she had like reserved space at with lots of her friends and her like colleagues. It's called Starlight Palms. It's a retirement home for actors or people from the entertainment industry. This is a really fantastic map of Starlight Palms that is going to be one half of the end papers. I think this will be at the front of the book, and then we'll cycle through in a minute and you can see some artwork that will be on the back half of the book. But Vera Stein finds that Ruby has sold the house that they've all lived in and has moved off to Starlight Palms. And now Vera is working this sort of dead-end job as an assistant for this guy that she's known since college that's always sort of been like a situationship for her and not really valued her. And one day Vera on her 40th birthday just kind of cracks, and she gets she gets a notification on her phone that says like, you know, she's overdrafted on her accounts, and she's like, I'm 40 years old and I'm still over here stressing about, I mean, who amongst us is not stressing about overdraft fees, and like I just want some stability in my life, and this is not that. And so she quits her job without really any warning and packs up and moves to Palm Springs. And she's also like nursing this screenplay that she's been writing for 20 years. And while I did say that I did return to Vera after years and years, if you've been nursing the same screenplay for 20 years, you might want to just put it down. And so Vera has been holding on to the screenplay and this dream of becoming a screenwriter. She goes out to Starlight Palms, is crashing on her grandmother's couch. Ruby is not too happy about her crashing on her couch because Ruby is having the time of her life with several partners in bed, and having a roommate in the form of your granddaughter sleeping on your couch really kind of crashes and ruins the vibe. So Vera Stein gets out to Starlight Palms, and she finds that the head doctor on staff is someone that she once met in college, who was a little bit of a frenemy, who she married on a dare in Vegas one night, and she hasn't seen him since. And so Vera is basically trying to grapple with like, I'm 40 years old, I haven't done anything in my life, what the hell is going on? Why does my grandmother hate me so much? Is it because you know, she is seeing all the life that I haven't lived and all the life that she has lived, and just thinking about all the time I'm wasting? Like, what is it? Is it just that like I'm not the person that she expected and hoped for me to be? Yeah, so this is like this book is a lot of my brain, like a lot of my brain and a lot of my like thumbprint of who I am as a person went into this book. Like I said earlier, I say it too in the acknowledgments for this book, like I would not have been able to write this book if I hadn't gone through the set of circumstances that I went through. I was like fresh out of a radical hysterectomy trying to finish this book, And my editor was like, just breathe and take your time. And I was like, no, I'm getting you this book. It's fine. I'm going to get it to you in 3 weeks. And then I turned it in a year later, because it turns out that having cancer and becoming a caretaker and doing all these things were a much bigger deal than I thought they were going to be. And I had to let those things happen to me in order for the story to exist. I'm not a big fan of like the adage that like artists have to suffer for their work, but I do think that we have to like pay the price of life. We do have to live to some extent. And this is the price, or this is what I got for paying the price of living over the last like 3 or 4 years. So that's Vera Stein.
Julie, thank you so much for sharing that. And this is one of those books that does kind of take you out of the world that you're living in, and you get to sit at this resort. So I thought it was resort retirement. I don't, it depends on who you are, I guess. But,
Yeah.
it is a really great escape book, especially when you are going through the shit in life that sucks, to put it plainly. And yeah, we got a lot of love in the chat. People are obsessed with the cover, which I was super obsessed with.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
So obsessed with this cover. I was just like, give me like an old roadside poster. That's what I want this cover to be. And we delivered, I think. So
thank you. I'm going to put you in a virtual green room and pass it to Lainey, and we'll see you soon.
goodbye.
I wish I could just like blue skidoo right into some of those photos by the water. Oh, it's amazing. Maybe that's I'm done with winter. I don't know. But okay, I think we're gonna go on to David Heska Wanbli Weiden. Come on screen.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. So cool to hear the other authors and hear about their amazing books. And I'll just join in with the librarian love. I just got back from PLA a few weeks ago, where I signed books for nearly 3 hours and had chats with librarians whom I just love. I mean, I grew up a poor kid in Denver, Colorado, and I've told this story before, we didn't have a library near us, but there was a bookmobile from Denver Public Library that came, and I would just check out every Friday, tons, like 5 or 6 books, and read them through the week. Everything, thrillers, spy novel, crime, history, romance, everything. And so, librarians and libraries really helped me shape what I do today.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that. I know you'll have people on here who run the bookmobile, and they'll be so happy to hear that. It's also National Library Week. So happy National Library Week to everyone. And thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you, and then we want to hear more about the book.
Sure.
So David Heska Wanbli Weiden is an enrolled citizen of the Sicangu Lakota Nation and the author of Winter Counts, which won the Anthony Award for Best First Novel, the Thriller Award for Best First Novel, and was nominated for an Edward Award for Best First Novel. He received the PEN America Writing for Justice Fellowship and is a recipient of the fellowships and residencies from McDowell, UCross Sewanee, Tin House, a professor of English and Native American and Indigenous Studies at Stony Brook University. He lives in New York and Colorado with his family. So tell us more about Wisdom Corner, out July 7th.
Well, again, I have one too. I happen to have the early review copy. And Wisdom Corner is a standalone sequel to Winter Counts, which came out in 2020. And by the way, was named by Time Magazine as one of the 100 best mysteries and thrillers of all time. I was absolutely stunned by that. And it won 12 awards across a variety of fields. It won pretty much every crime award. It won a Native American fiction award. It won a literary fiction award. And I've seen, Winter Counts shelved in different places. Most often it's shelved in crime and mystery, but sometimes it's shelved in literary fiction or Native American studies. And so, I think that book and hopefully this book as well, it kind of crosses boundaries. It transcends boundaries. And I think that's why, hopefully it was a success to the extent that it was. And I'm happy to tell you that Wisdom Corner is a standalone sequel. By that, I mean that if you have read Winter Counts, obviously your reading experience will be all the more rich, but you need not have. You can read this book on its own, and it stands again on its own. So I'm happy to talk about it. Let me tell you about Wisdom Corner. Now, to understand Wisdom Corner, you have to know a little bit about the laws that govern Native American reservations. My reservation is in South Dakota, the Rosebud Reservation, and we, as well as every other reservation in America, all nearly 600 of us, are governed by a US law called the Major Crimes Act. Now, in the interest of time, I don't want to go on, too much about that, but let me explain what it is. When a felony crime happens on a reservation, we, meaning Native American police officers, prosecutors, law enforcement authorities, we cannot prosecute it. We have to pick up the phone and call up the FBI and the US attorney's offices. They have sole authority to prosecute violent felony offenses on reservations, but they are declining to prosecute about 50 to 70% of these crimes. That means sexual abusers, rapists, murderers, arsonists are quite honestly, they are set free. They are released and set free to go out and commit more crimes. It's a real disgrace. And this is what's happening on Native American reservations today. And it's contributed to this phenomenon called missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives. Now, what has happened on some reservations is that some people have tried to pick up the slack, vigilantes, such as my protagonist, fictional protagonist, Virgil Wounded Horse. He is a hired vigilante, an enforcer. You can hire him. If somebody rapes your child or your cousin and you can't get justice from the US government, you might hire Virgil and he will go out and he will lay down a beating on the offender, and his price is $100 for each bone he breaks, each black eye, and each tooth he knocks out. So that's the setup. Virgil is a hired vigilante. And the first book really explored that, as does the new book as well. But Virgil is much more than just a thug. He is also raising his now 16-year-old nephew, Nathan. He has a girlfriend, Marie, and he cares deeply about the people of the Rosebud Reservation. That's where the novel is set. So in the new novel, Virgil Wounded Horse, your hired vigilante, he has stopped working as a hired enforcer. He's trying to, he's deeply troubled by the violence that he has in his life. In the last book, he became a little too addicted to it. He enjoyed beating people up a little too much, and he tried to step back. But he said, there are no 12-step programs for hired thugs, And but in the new book, he has stopped being a vigilante, but there is a murder of one of the central characters in the last book, and he is dragged back into being a vigilante because he has to catch the person who killed this revered figure on the reservation and get some justice. So that's really the incident that gets this book going. Virgil is dragged back in to vigilantism, but there are subplots as well. And I tell you, over the last 5 years, I have gotten hundreds and hundreds of emails from readers saying, Dave, when will there be a sequel? We want to know. And so I can give, a few crumbs of some of the subplots that exist in the book. Marie Shortbear, Virgil's girlfriend, is running for tribal council. So she's running for tribal council to atone for the sins of her father, which were explored in the previous book. Also going on is there's a street gang in the neighboring reservation, the actual Pine Ridge Reservation. They're trying to muscle in on a bootlegger. So we have bootleggers on our reservation. Bootleggers are people that cross state lines because our reservations are dry, and they buy alcohol and they sell it to citizens on the reservations. And they're trying to muscle in on a bootlegger on the Rosebud Reservation, the ethical bootlegger. And then finally, there's the issue of the native boarding schools. And I've got some pictures here. I'll give you the high sign when I want you to start those pictures. But native boarding schools, about 70% of all Native American children in the last, starting in 1890 up until about 1930, about 70 to 80% of all Native kids were taken by force to these boarding schools where they were not allowed to practice their culture, and they were often physically and sexually abused. Well, what's happening now is a lot of boarding schools, which have all shut down, we're finding that there are cemeteries and they're discovering unmarked graves of Native kids that were buried there. And that's an issue in the new novel as well. I also want to say quickly that there are some brand new characters in the novel. that I had a lot of fun with. A new character is Rose Charging Cloud. She's the chief of police for the Rosebud Sioux tribe. And she makes star quilts, which is the cover of the book. That's what we call a star quilt in my culture. There's Rich Courtings, a professor who's kind of irreverent. And it was fun for me because I work as a professor in my day job. And there's Tashunka Ota, who is a trash talking ghost who may or may not be a figment of Virgil's imagination. So as in the last book, and I'll start, you can go ahead and start up the pictures here. As in the last book, not only do I tell a story of Virgil and his family, but I touch on historical and legal issues as well. I'm a PhD in Native American Studies and Political Science. I'm also an attorney. And so I deal with political and legal issues, hopefully in an entertaining way. And so the first picture here is obviously just a sign at the entrance to the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota. You can go ahead and move to the next one. So this is a heartbreaking photo. This is an actual photo of the tiny handcuffs that were used to handcuff 3- and 4-year-old kids at the Carlisle Indian School. Now, my own grandmother was taken to the Carlisle Indian School. That was the first and most hated of all of the Native boarding schools. And they would handcuff these little children and take them to these schools, to drag them away from their parents. The parents didn't consent to this. So, this picture, it horrifies me. And the Native boarding schools, it plays a big role in the new novel. Okay, next one. So this is a picture that I took of the guardhouse. This is from the Carlisle Indian School. It's now an army base in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I took a drive there, and this stone building with the bars is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids who were disobedient were put into this stone jail with, no heat, no ventilation. And that's where they were punished. This is a real thing. And of course, the US government has whitewashed it. Now they call this the armory, but I knew what it was exactly. That's the guardhouse. And that's where the kids were taken. This is a house from, a lot of my readers don't know what housing is like on reservations. This is an actual house from the Pine Ridge Reservation right next to ours. So about 70, 80% of Native Americans on reservations, we live in substandard housing like this one, houses that don't have running water or electricity. And so, getting decent housing is really a problem on reservations. And then this plays a quick part in the book. This is from scenic South Dakota. This is a bar that existed in South Dakota. And on it, you can see, it says Indians allowed, if you can see that, but it used to say no Indians allowed, but somebody painted it. And so a key scene in the book actually takes place right outside of this picture here. And then this right here is the actual Wisdom Corner. Wisdom Corner is a gazebo. Back in the old days, people on my reservation, elders would come and they would tell stories and give wisdom and advice to the youngsters. But sadly, over the last 30 and 40 years, this area here, Wisdom Corner, is now a site for, unfortunately, alcohol abusers and drug abusers. And so it's sort of a metaphor for what has happened on some reservations. In the book, obviously, Virgil tries to change the reputation of what has happened in this particular neighborhood. So I think that's all the photos that I have here. Let me just say here that, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to write a textbook. I wanted to write a novel that keeps readers up, all night following, turning the pages and trying to see, what happens. But I'll just leave you with this. It was a real joy to finally go back to Virgil's world. And I really hope you enjoy Wisdom Corner. From the jacket copy that somebody wrote in HarperCollins, the novel is a literary thriller, a look at Native American life in the 21st century, and a meditation on justice for Indigenous citizens. Thank you all, librarians and readers, for your support of Wisdom Corner and Winter Counts. Thank you so much. Wopila, that means thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for those photos, because I think it's such a joy for me to return back to Virgil too. I'm sure half of those emails were from Harper, people being like, where's the next book? We can't wait. I loved the first one so much, and this one delivers just as much. And I think those photos really put exactly in the book. So I appreciate you sharing those. And Virgil's just my heart, because he stands up for the little guy, and he's trying to deal with his own things going on. I'm like, because he's given up cigarettes. I'm like, just get the man a cigarette. He's gone through so much, you know. But I think that what I love about your books is that I like, just like you said, I'm thrilled. I'm sucked into the thriller part of the book, but I'm learning so much without feeling like I'm learning, you know. And so I appreciate how wonderful you've written, but I just appreciate adding in all of those elements as well. So it was really great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. So thank you. And I want to bring everyone on so we can just keep chatting. So come on back. Wow. I feel like I want to just go reread everything now. I'm like, okay, bye. I'm gonna go reread everything. Thank you for everyone's talks and for waiting to come back on. I think, Grace, do you want to start with any questions?
Yeah, I just want to call out a lot of love in the chat from everyone. Just really sweet things going on. Nadia, I have a question for you. And I practice saying this, but I know I'm gonna mess it up. But the practice of bacha push in the book, okay, how do you say it? Because I know I mess it up.
You had it right. Bacha push.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank
Don't
you.
doubt yourself.
Thank you.
Yes.
So it plays a really significant role in the book, particularly with Marjan's backstory. Can you because that was something I wasn't familiar with. So can you talk about the practice a little bit and how it plays a role in City of Widows?
Sure. So the Bacha practice is, in Afghanistan, it's like it is a pretty traditional society. It's a patriarchal society, and so families have a lot of pride if they've got at least one son in the family. The more, the merrier. And for families that don't have a son, they may feel like they're really lacking. So there's this old practice, it dates back to who knows when, of, families will take a young daughter and disguise her as a son. And it's kind of like an open secret, like people know about it, or they might not know about it. Neighbors might not know that this is actually a girl, but they'll have this child be their son, and they do this for a couple of reasons. One is logistically, it's helpful for some families to have a boy because a boy can navigate the outside world in a way that a girl can't. But there's also a superstitious belief that if you disguise one of your children as a bachapush, as a boy, then the next child born into the family will actually be a son. And, half the time it works out that way, right? So that's the practice, and that's a really prominent feature in my first novel, The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, where the main character, she's a young girl, her family decides to make her a bachaposh, and she lives that way until she's 13 years old, helping her family, doing things in the market and escorting her sisters to school. And then that becomes, a life that she wishes she could have again when she's at 13, married off to a warlord and becomes the wife to a warlord. So, and this is the character who then grows up to become the soldier that we meet in City of Widows. And so, one of the questions in talking and thinking about the Bachaposh experience is, did that experience change her in a way that empowered her, that made her capable or believe that she was capable of being a soldier? And there are instances in Afghanistan where we'll read about a woman who was like in parliament who was a bachaposh when she was young, or there's a woman who was a leader in a media outlet who was a bachaposh when she was younger. So, would they have done that if they didn't have that experience? Who really knows? But it's an interesting loophole for missing out on the sun experience, but also one that really could transform a child's life.
Thank you. Yeah, I was unfamiliar and I went on a rabbit hole afterwards and started reading articles. So thank you for explaining that. And I'll pass it to Lainey.
Thanks. Okay, we have a question for Alexandra. So, will Immortal Rose be a standalone, or can we expect a series or a trilogy?
It is a duology. I definitely meant to mention that at some point, and I have definitely been getting some very type reviews because I think we just didn't include it in the copy. And so I have talked to my editor about this, and it will be a duology.
Good news all around. Extra,
Yeah.
extra. Read all about it. Okay. And then Grace, I think you're going to go next.
Yeah, absolutely. So Julie, I was thinking, yeah, they've been referring it to you as this like your solo adult debut, even though you've been writing adult books. But I was kind of wondering, like, has co-writing with your best friend impacted how you wrote this book solo? Like, were there things that you've taken from that experience into your own writing practice?
If I were a good adult, I would say yes. Because when I write with my best friend, we have to, even though we're both like very scatterbrained in our own separate process, we have to sit down and be like, this is what the character looks like, this is what's going to happen in this book. We have to like make actual solid plans for our futures as writers. And it's just not something that I have uh like been very good at in my own life. There are certain things though that we've learned from each other. Sierra is big on research and I'm big on make it up as you go. Um, and so there are times when she is learning when to stop researching, and I'm learning when I actually do need to like sit down and be like, okay, maybe I should know more about, you know, the dates and the palm trees and all this stuff in in the desert of California. Maybe it's not the same as like the desert in Texas that I'm accustomed to. So those are things that we've picked up along the way. What we do though is, because neither of us get very excited about a book that we know how it ends as we're writing it. And so it's just not appealing for us to like know an exact roadmap, but we do outline 5 chapters in advance. And so every time we kind of like have like a little mini story summit every 5 chapters and check in. We have like a basic mental roadmap of where things might go, but we allow ourselves to sort of improv as much as we want to once we hit like a 5 chapter mark. And so I have started doing that, and it has, I'm chagrined to say, made a difference. It turns out that the more that you plan, the less you have to revise, but I don't know.
I love that. Thank you.
I mean, anyone here feel like they're a plotter or a pantser, or they're kind of like in between? Is that how do we feel? Hmm.
I am gonna shamelessly steal this joke from Sierra, but I am a panty liner, and that and that I will pants to my heart's delight, but I do have like that little bit of outline to kind of,
I love that.
it's kind of like have you ever seen like the really precarious like rope railing on like some of those like hikes
Yes.
on top of a mountain? That's my outline. Like it's the guy who installed it probably died when he was installing it. Like it's just that's the outline I have to go with.
Yeah, I feel like I think we call it like a headlights plotter, where it's like you kind
Mm.
of have the overall direction you're going in, where you know where the story has to end and like the big midpoint, but you don't really outline like until you're just reaching that scene and you kind of
Mm.
need to know exactly what happens in that moment. But because I'm the same way where I like need a sense of discovery, I need to kind of like be surprised along with the characters, otherwise I get bored very quickly. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's sort of the in between I've worked out.
Yeah, I'm seeing heads nod, so I think everybody kind of feels that way. Is everyone okay to go over like 5 minutes? Are we okay on time? Okay. Just want to be notice. I want to notice the time. Okay, so David, I want to talk about, because this is librarians, they love references. At the end of your book, you have a wonderful reference section, and on your website for the previous book, you have a reading guide. There's a recipe. I feel like, I don't know. I just wanted to, I'm sure your background in law and being a professor really shines light on the research. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all.
Well, sure. I'll piggyback on what was said before. I'm, as far as being a pantser or a plotter, I suppose not surprisingly, having a PhD in social science, I had to, I am an extreme researcher. Okay. There's a Crime Reads article out there that Eli Craner did with me where I told him about how much research I did, and he was shocked, just genuinely shocked. So I research not only the historical and legal references, but also metaphorical allusions, language stuff. It's just kind of how I was trained, to my detriment, because it slows me down. So yeah. So and the recipe on my website is actually, I did not come up with it. A bartender made like the Virgil special or something. Now, Virgil doesn't drink in the novel, so she created like an alcohol-free drink. So I did not create that, but she sent that, like, I loved your book so much, I've done a recipe for it. And then the graphic designer for Target, like Target, the store we all go to, loved my book. So she did a series of portraits of scenes from Winter Counts. And so I'm like, wow, because understand, we love Target. My girlfriend and I love Target so very much, And then finally, if we're talking product placement here, I also really love Cape Cod potato chips, kettle chips, and I put them in the new novel. Now, last book in Entertainment Weekly, I did an interview with them, and I mentioned Cape Cod kettle chips, and I was expecting to get a box, and I got no box. Okay, and now it's in the novel again. All right, so Cape Cod, if you're out there, I want some chips.
I noticed it, and I have to say, you've said it here. They have 24 hours to respond. They need to get you a box. Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you. I love that. So also, I have lots of questions about music, and I feel like Grace also had a question about music. So maybe we combine that. Mine was, so Dave, you mentioned a punk band at the end, and I think Alex, you have playlist of every book. So what's everyone listening to? If you could pick like a genre for your book that or a song, if you have something, or if you're going to just talk about the playlist, you're going to make, that's fine. But music, I want to bring in to the conversation. And Grace, I don't know if you want to do your side of the question.
I think
maybe it doesn't fit with what I asked.
Yeah, let's make it more general. Now we're pantsing right now. Like, how does music impact your writing process and how it, fits into your stories, or just however you feel about music? I don't we're
so
blending
music right go. No, y'all can just jump in. It's like whoever wants to talk can. I feel like Alex was about to say something.
I feel bad about jumping in. I feel like I'm being a chatty Cathy. But I have these like epically long playlists for all of my books, and I just listen to the same song to start every single day. And that's sort of my, like, in addition to burning a candle or like picking a perfume that I like really have attached to that story or the mood I want to write in today, I like always start with the same song. So for Immortal Rose, it was the Tortured Poets Department. That whole album, very deep in feelings. So that was like a good inspiration. But I listened to a lot of like movie soundtracks and scores, especially, like the Pride and Prejudice soundtrack is so beautiful and has become so iconic. And then I have recently been listening to Florence and the Machine's newest album because it's so like beautiful and so, yeah, exactly.
I have the vinyl. Yep.
Me too. I got the like special deluxe edition vinyl with like the book and all of it. And I was like, this is very extra of me. But I literally went through and looked at every single page of the book that was in there. Like I'd never seen the movie before. But yeah, so I've been listening to a lot of Florence and the Machine, a lot of Hosier, like very like poetic, deep emotional music helps me get into that state of mind for writing.
Yeah, for this one, it was a lot of, oh, sorry, Dave.
No, you go first. You go first, please.
For this one, it was a lot of like Ella Fitzgerald, like Rosemary Clooney, things like that. But I was also mixing it with like the music I would have listened to in 2004, because there are a lot of like great college flashbacks to that time. And so there was some Christina Aguilera in there, the good stuff. But also like I'm such a Swiftie, and so Tortured Poets was a huge like heavy lifter on this one for me. I listened to that one quite a bit. And also Midnights, like that was a big one too. This is the longest playlist I've ever had in my life because this is the longest I've ever taken to write a book. So it just like spans over like the last like 8 years essentially.
I'll jump in because I love music so much. Now, unlike y'all, I cannot listen to music when I'm writing. My girlfriend, who's in the other room, is a well-known horror writer, and she will listen to rap and everything. And but I can't do it. Okay, I need silence. But I do put a lot of thought into what my characters listen to. And Virgil, Wounded Horse, is a heavy metal guy all the way, which is not really my genre. I like alternative and punk. And so the epigraph, is that right? Epigraph? It's something that starts off a book, right? Did I get that right? Okay, yeah. I was at a punk rock show by a band called X from LA, and I went backstage and I talked to John Doe, the bassist and songwriter, and he allowed me to use a lyric from their new album. It's just a few words: "Old cars and new scars," which, if you've been to Reservation, that fits perfectly. So the book starts with that, but but none of my characters actually really like X or punk rock music. But what I did throw myself into is there's this undiscovered resource of Native American music. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there was this whole underground Native American music scene. You can't get it on Spotify or anywhere, but there's this guy in Minnesota that has this amazing resource, Watecha Records. Watecha is a Lakota word. And has vinyl records of like maybe only 20 of them exist, of old country and folk and native music. And so I started getting into Buddy Redbow, who's this unknown Lakota musician. And so I brought in a lot of unknown and lost Native American music into the new book. So that's sort of a hidden thing that's in there, kind of like an Easter egg.
That's cool. Awesome. And then Nadia, I don't want to cut you off if you.
Yeah. No, so similarly, I can't listen to I love tortured poets, but I can't listen to it if I'm trying to write because I'm listening to Taylor's words and I need to find my own words. So I don't have that skill where I can have us do our words separately. But I do love to listen to music when I'm writing, and I try to find stuff that will like fit the mood of the story at that particular time. So I do listen to like instrumental or movie soundtracks. I love the soundtrack to the movie Amelie. That's one of my favorites by like Jan Tiersen. It's just so like quirky and like a lot of feelings come out with that. As well as a lot of other, soundtracks to like really dramatic movies that I cannot think of right now because, we're on the spot. But then I also do listen to like instrumental Afghan music, and particularly with this one because the young girl in the story is a musician, and because she's learning to play on the rabab, a very traditional instrument. And so I would listen to that, just have that in the background, and just try to imagine this little girl trying to, pluck at these strings and perform these songs that I've grown up listening to, that my parents grew up listening to, and then to know that like all of that's going to be taken away from her. So I try to use music to kind of like, feed the mood and the energy of the story for me too.
I love that. I feel like my very terrible way of asking that question, I apologize, was really just leading to tell you all to make playlists. That's really all I was saying. So thank you. I appreciate everyone's commentary on music because it seems like it really is a driving force behind you when you're writing. And we've gotten so many, like we could talk for hours. So thank you so much for staying on with us. We've gotten so much great comments. I just have this really great one, Nadia, about The Pearl That Broke Its Shell. Donna, our friend Donna said, one of the most successful book clubs I've ever selected a book for the book clubs. Incredible story, and paired it with a kid's book, and the discussion and education for all of us was amazing. So just some really great notes coming in. Everyone really likes the panty liner joke. Julie, thank you for that. But yeah, it like everyone's just like, we love all of your stories. This has been an amazing night. And I agree. I think again, I have so many questions that we're not going to get to. But I appreciate everyone taking their time to talk to librarians and be so kind to them and say such awesome words. I feel like this is a great end to National Library Week, all of the love. And I just want to, one more time, have all of the books up and say, don't forget to go download your eGalley. And thank you to our authors tonight. We had Alexandra Bracken, author of Immortal Rose, on sale August 18th. We had Nadia Hashimi, author of City of Widows, out July 28th. We have Julie Murphy, author of VERA STEIN is Fine, out July 21st. And we had David Heska Wanbli Weiden, author of Wisdom Corner, out July 7th. So thank you so much, and have a lovely evening. Oh.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.